to my channel. My name is Gemma Barnes and I'm a vocal coach and singing teacher. And in today's episode of Sofa Sessions, I am joined by Bryony Louise Duncan. Bryony is a fellow performer. She has, well, do you know what? I'm not going to tell you too much about her because she's going to explain and go through her career and everything. We're going to have a little bit of a chat. Hi, Bryony. How are you?
Hiya, I'm good, thank you. Are you okay?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Do you want to start off by just sort of telling us a bit about you, like you, who you are, maybe your training, your career, or anything that as a person you are that you want to tell us?
Yeah, of course. So I graduated, I feel so old. I graduated back in 2019, which feels like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, graduated in 2019. And then when I graduated, I auditioned for a cruise ship with Marella. And I think it was with TUI at the time, and did that it was quite a long contract. It was about 12 months. We had 3 months rehearsals, which was like a booty camp because it wasn't a booked show, so it wasn't like a musical show. It was more of a variety show, which meant that we had like 10 shows to learn in 3 months. And it was very much like, woo, pace, work. But yeah, that was my first job. Learned a lot of great stuff on the job, travelled the world, which was obviously amazing. Came back and then I wanted to change my agent just because we weren't gelling and it was just a bit like, yeah, move on kind of thing. So I sat down and I was like, right, I need new headshots because I'd changed a lot whilst being away. I need new headshots. I need to update my spotlight, add the credit on, just get more things behind me. So then when I was emailing agents, it wasn't like a blank CV or a blank CV with an okay headshot and stuff like that. So I kind of did my research about who I wanted to go to, had that all done, and then sat in front of my computer, did all of my research on different agents who I thought I'd work well with, who I just quite like the look of, who I also did that weird thing where you look at what clients are in. So quite a lot of them were like in the West End, or they were doing tours or something like that. And I was like, oh, I want to be in that musical. Oh, and she's getting them in the room, so she might be able to get me in the room kind of thing. So that's where I went with it. Sent loads out. I must have sent about 15, 20 plus out. Not all at one time. I kind of like did a bunch, waited to hear back, and then did another bunch, waited to hear back. So I didn't like lose track of who I was speaking to. And then BBA got back in touch with me, who I'm represented by now. Sent a couple of monologues, did a couple of self-tapes for her just to see how she worked with me and I worked with them, and then got representation, which was amazing, and then had a couple of months just trying to find my feet in London, so going to Pineapple, doing a couple of workshops, and then auditioned for 6 on board the cruise ship, which was quite a long process, but it was about like a month and a half, which was really exciting. It was like my first big audition, so I was nervous and I was like, oh, I want the job and everything, like natural nerves. And then I think I waited to hear about 4 or 5 weeks, and normally if I don't hear in like a week and a half, I'm like, right, move on, next job, just so you're not dwelling on anything and it doesn't like overtake normal life. And I must have waited quite a long time because I was like, oh, I don't know whether I've got this, guys. I was saying to my family, I was like, I don't know whether I've got this, don't know whether I've got it. And then my agent rang me and she was like, it's brilliant news, like you've got the job, you'll be going next month. And I was like, okay. So then that happened, had loads of costume fittings.
You're a swing, right?
Yeah, did a swing. I was cover Jane Seymour, Amber Lynn and Catherine Howard, and then went on board the ship. It was a shorter contract this time, it was only 6 or 7 months, and did that, then came back. And then I literally got back the weekend before the whole world like shut down. So that weekend I did everything I probably shouldn't have. So I went on the tube, went to see 6 in London, saw like the original cast in London. And then the next day I woke up and I was like, okay, lockdown's happening. There's not much we can do about it. So then all that kind of happened, staying at home. And then during that time, I did a lot of online Zoom lessons made lots of connections with different people who I wouldn't normally, because obviously with me living in the north and not yet living in London, I didn't really have that networking position. Whereas when I was at home and everyone else was at home, they'd run online dance lessons or online one-to-ones or meet and greets. So I kind of used that opportunity to make my connections whilst at home. So then when we came out of it, I was then able to go to dance lessons at Pineapple with Ashley and him know who I am and me know who he is. So it's not as daunting, and it's not as, oh God, I'm at Pineapple and I'm surrounded by dancers and I don't know what I'm doing. And so that was quite nice to kind of make my connection with everyone who I wanted to during that lockdown period. And then when we were slowly starting to come out of it and things were opening back up again and everything felt safe and things like that, my agent rang and said, Six would like you to cover West End and UK tour. And I was like, absolutely, like, would never pass up that opportunity. Yes, yes, yes. And then I think about a month later, that's when I started to join the cast of the UK tour, because they were relearning, re-revising everything.
Yeah.
And stayed with them for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then got the call to move to London to do West End. And then it kind of just snowballed after that. And then I did West End for about 6 or 7 months, and then finished last November. And here I am.
Wow, that's such a whirlwind of a couple of years, really. You think that's like all in the space of a sort of around 2 years-ish, isn't it? If you graduated in 2019, you know, we're in 2022 now, so yeah, that's it's a lot. I bet it did literally feel like, you know, just kept going and going. And how lucky as well to, you know, come out of the pandemic and you know, step into a dream job.
Yeah.
That, you know, had you even thought about it? Like, had you
thought
I
it was
did not
see it coming.
You know?
I never saw it coming in a million years. When I first started with them, I was like, oh, I'm just covering, like, it's just revision. Like, don't get your hopes up too much, because it doesn't happen, or you definitely don't go on. Because I was standby swing at that point, and a standby is an off-stage swing. So I didn't want to build myself up and then it not happen. So I was very much like, just put the graft in, Bryony, and if it does happen, you're ready. If it doesn't, another time will come further down the line. And then when it happened, I just remember crying my eyes out and being like, oh my God, it's happening. But then I still don't think it's happened. Like, it hasn't sunk in. It's just really weird.
No, oh, that's so exciting. So let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind. So tell us a little bit about what it was like to be, like, what was your first show like when you went on the West End stage?
Oh, I kind of can't remember it, because I knew it was happened and it was planned, and the social media post went out about it, told all my family, so that was really exciting. Got me a bit nervous, but it wasn't like nervous as in I couldn't control it. It was like nervous, like your younger self right now, if she could have seen what you're about to do, she would be like, oh my goodness, what, how, when, like the journey. I kind of remember behind the kabuki, all the girls would always do a prayer before we started. Whoever was new on that day, we'd kind of give them our energy. So say if there was an alternate on, or if it was an alternate massive show, we'd give everyone like you've got this, take a deep breath, like, you're going to be okay, we've got you, we support you, if anything goes wrong then we can back you, we can cover it, don't stress. So those words of encouragement before the kabuki went up, because my heart was racing, let me tell you, my goodness. But having those like words of wisdom and just knowing that the girls have got you and they support you was just like, you know what, let's go out and smash it. And then no matter what part I went on for, I always, you know, the chords, I'd always take a deep breath in and then I'd just release it, and then the kabuki would go up and we'd start walking, and that like breath was just like you've got this, enjoy it. And then I did it and it kind of happened, and then at the end I was just like, oh my God, I've just made my West End debut, and then it didn't really sink in until the end. And the end of Don't Lose Your Head, the audience went crazy. And when I said beheaded, because I made my debut as Anne Boleyn, and I was just there. Obviously, I'm not facing the audience. So when I went beheaded, I was like, oh my gosh, they're all shouting for me. It was crazy. But yeah, it was adrenaline, it was excitement, it was nerves. It was also the first time my agent had ever seen me live before as well.
Wow, yeah.
So I was like, I can't wait for her to see me. I can't wait for her team to see me. It was just amazing.
I mean, for anyone that's watching this and, you know, or listening to it, it's probably like, that's something that people just dream of doing. That's so incredible. Who was your favourite queen to play?
Oh, I can relate to them all in so many different ways. For example, like for Seymour, I can make a dad joke, and I find myself hilarious where other people not so much. And that's like a trait of Seymour. But then Anne Boleyn, she's quite cheeky. She's quite, not outlandish, but she's quite a rebel, and she follows her own rules. And she's all for the fun aspect of life, which again, I can relate to. And then Catherine Howard, she is very much, there's more to her than what is just an exterior. Yeah. And I think everyone can relate to that, which is why people like her so much. But out of the three, I'd have to go Kay Howard. Just for vocal wise, and then the acting. And I also loved when I did All You Want to Do, like people listen to the song and think, oh, this is really nice, it's all you want to do, like it's really fun and girly, and it's not very serious, and you get to catch the audience and lure them into a false sense of security. And I've really enjoyed watching people enjoy the first half and laugh at all the innuendos and laugh at all the things they should be laughing at, and then at the end kind of sit there and be like, I shouldn't have laughed 5 minutes ago. Whoa, like this is deep.
Yeah.
I kind of like that element of it.
Yeah. And I think it's nice, isn't it? It's like it's a reminder to not judge a book by its cover. It's a reminder that your first impression isn't always right. What you see on the surface, like there could be anything happening underneath. And like you said, people can relate to that, which is why I think she's a lot of people's favourite because of that. And the song's awesome, like it's an insane hard song as well, and everyone loves a challenge. So I think
it's a marathon, but it's great.
Yeah. How did you look after your voice? Because obviously they're big sings. The entire show is non-stop. You know, how did you cope with that, like physically and vocally and mentally?
That's a good question. I drank a lot of water. Like I don't think I've ever drank as much water in my entire life. Like we did a vocal warm-up every day, we did a physical warm-up every day, and even if I wasn't on stage, I'd still do the warm-up just to make sure if a last minute thing happened, I'd be vocally ready to go on, same as physically. But in the same vein, even if I knew that the girls were fit and healthy and they felt good within themselves and there was such a low chance of me going on, I think me doing the vocal warm-up every day in that kind of specific style of song really helped just build my vocal stamina. Even though I wasn't singing the full show every night, me doing a warm-up before I went on, it's like everyday life, isn't it? You do a vocal warm-up to speak to people because it is such a delicate part of the body. So me just doing vocal warm-ups, taking loads of water. After the show, I wouldn't go out anywhere, I wouldn't go for drinks, purely because if the next day I'm singing Kay Howard, she's up in the rafters, so I wouldn't be able to go out, have a late night and then come back in the next day without knowing that I feel fresh. Also, we were all very honest, so if we did feel a bit like tickly or a bit croaky, we'd just let someone know, just so then everyone else is prepared and like I'm not damaging my voice. We had a physio every week that we could use, which was optional. We could use it or we couldn't. We could just book in. The one thing I wanted to do and I never did was get a larynx massage. You know, like a vocal massage.
Yeah.
I've always wanted one of them for such a long time, but I'm like, oh, will it hurt? I don't know.
Yeah, so I've had a few. I used to go to physio ed for mine. There's a couple of physios there that do like voice massage, and it is the most painful thing ever. But that's probably subjective, and it depends on you. Like I've always had my jaw's always been a little bit of like a tension point, and tongue, because then obviously everything's connected, and it's great. Like your voice feels like really good afterwards, like a couple of days later or like a week later and stuff. It's great. But I've also seen though there's another place. Actually, I'd love to get one of the founders of it actually on for a chat, because I'd really like to speak to them, that do voice massage. And I don't believe theirs is as intense. Like I feel like theirs is more like manual therapy, and it's not painful. I've yet to go or experience that yet, but it's on my to-do list. But it is a really good thing for you.
Just want to know how it feels.
You'd probably be fine. Like I'm sure there's other people that that maybe don't have as much tension in their muscles, and that are absolutely fine. But I guess it's like anything, isn't it? Yeah, it's great that you have an injury support and injury prevention. Well, don't you? You don't have monitors on the stage, you have in-ear monitors.
Yeah, so whatever you guys hear out front is this similar in our ears, but it's just raw. So we get a raw vocal in our ears. So sometimes, for example, I'd come off and be like, oh, that was a bit dodgy. But the sound team were like, no, Bryony, you're hearing raw vocals in your ears. The audience will hear something completely different to what you're hearing. Same with the band. We can sometimes say to the sound team, can I have less of me, more band? Can I have more of me and less of the band? So our in-ears are very tailored to what we like as singers.
Yeah, which I think is great, really great. And for a show like Six, I think it's needed. Otherwise you're going to be pushing your voices, because it's vocally and physically so demanding that if you've all got just a general monitor feed from either above or at the bottom of the stage, like I don't think you'd vocally get through it and be as healthy by the end.
No.
As having in-ear monitors. I think in-ear monitors,
they're so great. And when you first put them on, I remember doing the first run in them, and it was so weird because I'd never used them before. So I was like, oh gosh, I can really hear my voice in here, in my own head.
Yeah, but it's great because it does stop you pushing. It really does stop pushing your voice, because when everything is really, when the energy is really high and you've got a band behind you and a drummer especially banging away, like you generally tend to, I think singers that work with a live band a lot, like, or do weddings and whatever, like if they sing with a band and have like a drummer right behind them, like it's the same thing. You, even if you think like, oh no, I'm being careful, like you're definitely pitching.
You can't help it, because you get excited, and you get, especially with the audience as well, because the audience are absolutely amazing and they give you so much energy, so you, without thinking, want to give it back to them, vocally, physically. So then with the in-ears, it's nice to just have that reminder of, you don't need to push, you don't need to do anything, it's there, you've got it in your ears, you're doing what you need to do. So it's a nice reminder to not to push your voice, because it is a marathon, and as soon as you start, it's a marathon.
It's never ending, especially if you do Kay Howard or Catherine Parr, like you are, your solos are towards the end, so you've got you've kind of got to ride through everyone else.
Definitely.
Hang about. And there's so much, I mean, you're seeing them dancing full out all the time. I mean, apart from Jane Seymour's solo, like only one that stands there and sings. And as intimidating as that song seems, in a way, that's probably the nicest one, because you don't have dancing around at the same time.
Definitely. It does feel really weird to slow the pace down of the show, because when the kabuki goes, it's go go go, and then that's the first moment in the show where it kind of slows down and doesn't stop, but it has that kind of like, oh, that like nurturing side to it. So when you do it, it is really weird to go from being emotional, making sure you slow the pace down, not super slow, but just slow enough that the audience understand that we're going into a bit of a musical theatre ballad, and then to come straight out of that into House of Holbein is like, whoa.
Yeah, but I think it's such a nice, like, it has that effect then that everyone kind of goes down, and then the energy just goes boom again, and the entire theatre's like, oh, okay.
And you're just there laughing at people.
And that is the strangest song like in the world, so I think it's such a cool way to, it's so cleverly done, which is why I think it's so popular and done so well. And no matter how you identify, I think you can relate to at least one of the queens on some, which I think is the best thing about the show. And it was never really done before.
It's nice to look at people enjoying it. Like as a swing, like if I do a show watch, for example, if I'm on for a new part or I just want like a refresh, then me sitting in the audience and just looking around and watching other people react to what we do on stage is amazing. I remember being in the audience in one of the boxes when we were watching. It was like some of the last shows, so we wanted to watch just to support, and Natalie Paris was doing Hearthstone, and instead of watching Natalie, I kind of looked at the audience and I was like, whoa, like this is why we do it. That is why I do it. That is why I want to do this for like life, because watching other people's reactions and how involved they are, and how you can literally see them on the edge of their seat being like, I want to finish, when she finished, I want to clap, like just that buzz. Even at the beginning, for example, when the kabuki like opens slightly, the absolute raw people make when they just walk through is just like, I'm here, I'm gone.
Yeah, I love that. Do you want to explain what kabuki is for anyone that maybe doesn't know?
Yeah, so the kabuki is the purple curtain that is draped in front of the stage, and that's all you see when you come in the auditorium. And then the overture will play, and then this big like bass sound, it's like a will start, and the kabuki will open like just slightly to fit us walking through it, and there's loads of smoke and really like ominous but quite like Beyonce vibes, start of a concert kind of thing. And we'll just walk through the smoke, and then you'll see us, and then we'll go into blackness. But and then something happens with the kabuki, which is really exciting, but if you've not seen it yet, I won't spoil
it. Awesome. So how did it compare doing the show on the ship to doing it in the West End, to doing it on tour?
On the ship it's the same show, which is good because for my brain, but the atmosphere is a bit different purely because the Norwegian cruise line is an American cruise line, and at the time when I went on to the ship, it hadn't come out in Broadway yet, so we were like the first cast to take it overseas. So sometimes the jokes, we changed some of the jokes in it just to make sure that they understood the lingo. So there were some differences with that, but obviously on a ship it could be rocky, and if you're in a heel, it just took a little bit of getting used to, and not being like, oh my gosh, I might fall over, or oh my gosh, I'm not very stable on my feet. But it was more like living on a ship that was different to on land. The show and the buzz and the hype and the amazingness and the costumes of everything was exactly the same to land. And then on tour, exactly the same as West End. Like, they went crazy for it. The audiences were absolutely amazing. But yeah, not very different. It's just a different environment, which made it feel quite different. But the same show, the same vibe. It was still awesome.
Yeah, and I guess having done ships before and having done such a long contract previously and so many shows, you know, you were obviously well seasoned, and the Morella ships are a little bit smaller than Norwegian as well, so I'm sure you'd have felt the waves a
Yeah.
hell of a lot more with those. How did you cope with having like 10 different shows?
You know what? It's not as overwhelming as what you think, or it sounds. When I say 10 shows, it's like, whoa, that's a lot. But with the 3 months we had, we did a week. So a show a week, and then we'd leave it until we got onto the ship, and that's when we went live. So we'd learn like Africa, for example, which was very much like ethnic, very tribal. And then we'd learn all that show, do a pro run at the end of the show, which is where we'd get the director, choreographer of that particular show in. They'd watch it, they'd give us feedback, and then we kind of put that to bed and then move on to the next one. So it was just a lot of revision and keeping up with not forgetting what I'd done previous.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the 3 months, you look back at everything you've learned and you're like, whoa, like, did I actually, is my brain retained all that information kind of thing? Because it's also really intimidating when you get the job and they're like, right, we're going to learn 10 shows.
Yeah.
You automatically, you automatically have that, whoa. One, you know it's going to be a lot of material. Two, it's my first proper job. Like, will my vocal stamina be okay? Will me physically be okay? Obviously, if I have any injuries or issues, I have an on-board doctor, but it's not like being in the UK. It's not like ringing up and being like, oh, can I have a dentist appointment or something like that. So I think when you first go on a cruise ship, that's quite a lot of the things that you forget until you're just about to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was overwhelming, but the way that you kind of had a schedule, we kept to the schedule and just did it week by week and just like ticked off song by song. And as well, if there was anything that we couldn't do or struggled with, we'd just have one-to-ones and kind of iron out anything that weren't sitting very well or anything like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's really, really good. Where have you like traveled? You said like you've traveled like quite a bit of the world. So where have you been to? Like, where are some of your favorite places?
So I've travelled to the Caribbean, I've travelled around the Mediterranean, I've gone to Mexico, Alaska, Italy, Rome, quite a lot of places. Probably my favourite was Barcelona, just because it's a gorgeous vibe, and I loved that you can have your caricature done in the street. I loved all the street artists, and it was very much a party as soon as you went out of the complex where the ship was docked. And I just lived for that vibe and people being happy, and I liked exploring different people's ethnicity. Like when I got off the ship, I'd like to have their hometown meal. So as a northerner, it'd be like fish and chips. That's very northern. So I'd go to Jamaica and try jerk chicken, and I'd want really spicy, just to try their flavours and what they enjoy, which was really nice to kind of travel and experience different cuisine and culture. And it made me feel very grateful as well, especially when I went to more rundown places of the world. It made me check in with myself and be like, you've got a lot. You need to be more grateful for what you have.
You said you learned a lot, and you learned your skills as a performer, like, continue to grow. And I always say, actually, yes, your training is important. Like, if, you know, it kind of sets your foundations, but your training doesn't stop when you leave college. Like, one, you should still be going to classes and having lessons and, you know, growing your skills, honing your skills, improve it. You're never, ever going to be the best, you know. You always want to keep going and keep improving and keep striving. But also you learn, like, work skills, life skills, like social skills. Like, there's so much learning to be done that happens once you leave. You leave that kind of safe, supportive bubble space. Well, depending on where you go, hopefully it's safe, supportive. It's dependent on your training. But why don't you jump back to your training, because you didn't train at a big old London drama school that everyone knows the name of, did you?
No, I went to Mechanics Performing Arts, which is a university in West Yorkshire. Where I live in Wakefield, and I did a BA Honours. I did a HND, and then I topped it up to a BA Honours. And so it's the same time, like it's the same 3 years as it would be if I went to drama school, but it's just in like a different location, and like you say, it's not got that big name behind it.
It sort of already starts you from a different start line, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, your start line is different to somebody that's been to GSA, that's been to Arts Ed, because we all know those names. Was there a reason you chose to go there?
I auditioned for drama school and didn't get in. So I stayed at home, and that was kind of my first knockback as like a performer, let's say. Because I really wanted to go to GSA, because I went and I loved it, fell in love with it, fell in love with the people, the vibe, the training that you'd get. And everyone who has ever done what I want to do has gone to drama school, because I'd used to look in programmes for everything I went to go see, and it would be
always look at
Ed or GSA, or it would be Mount View, it would be those places. It'd very rare be something that I've never heard of, or something quite local like my school was. So when I graduated, I kind of was a bit like apprehensive, because a cruise originally is not something that I wanted to do. I was very much like, I want to do tours, I want to do West End. That's very much where I wanted to go instantly.
Yeah.
But then when I graduated and I did a cruise, I realised that because I haven't gone to drama school, it will be a little bit harder, but there's no reason why it can't happen.
Yeah.
The only reason it wouldn't happen is if I didn't train, I didn't take workshops, I didn't work that little bit harder. But I think because I'm quite confident in my own skill and know that I can give people from drama school a run for their money. But yeah, it is hard, but I think right now we've come so much further on. Like smaller schools are definitely being seen a lot more. But yeah, it's just about hard work, because it is hard. But if you know what you want, then there's no reason why you can't get it.
And even if you have been to, some amazing drama school, there's no saying that that's gonna definitely get you in the door. No. There's no saying that you're gonna work. It really doesn't. Just because you've been to a top named drama school, it doesn't mean that you're gonna do that job that you've had in your mind since you were like 6 years old. It doesn't promise you anything. Like, if your work ethic's not there, or the talent's just not there, you can go to a big drama school for 3 years and hardly progress because you didn't put in the effort, or there's too many people, or it just actually wasn't the right place for you to train. Or you can go somewhere else for 3 years that maybe isn't such a big name, but your training's great, you've got the attention you needed, you're a hard worker, and you never stopped grafting, and that's how you fly. And I guess in a way, the jobs you've done, kind of, even though a cruise maybe wasn't the first, the top to do on your list, you did that first cruise, learnt loads, grew as a performer, grew as a person, so that then when 6 did come around, you were ready for that. And you then stepped on that cruise, which then led to being offered and asked to do the tour in West End. And so that first moment that you were like, do I want to do this job? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm 19 years old, I've just graduated, is what led you to stepping out, on the West End stage for the first time, going, oh my gosh, it's really happening. When have you been performing all your life?
So I originally wanted to be a professional ballerina. So when I was little, my mum put me into a dance school, more of a hobby, just to give me something to do, because when you're little you want like loads of different things. So I used to swim a lot and do like galas, because I was really competitive. And then she was like, oh, why don't you try this dance class? And it was freestyle disco and ballroom and Latin, so I did like two ends of the spectrum. And then did that for a couple of years, like did loads of rosettes, got like little trophies, which is hilarious thinking back now. And then went to college, and I said to my mum, and I was like, I want to do this as a career. And I remember sitting down with my mum, and my mum being like, Bryony, I know nothing about this, so if you're going to do this, you are really going to have to do this. We'll support you in any way we can. We'll meet the right people, or we'll try and meet the right people to help you progress in like any way we possibly can, but I can tell you what dance class is going to be right for you. I can't tell you what singing teacher is going to be right for you. Whereas if I probably did anything to do with teacher, because she's a teacher, she would be able to point me in the direction of exams to take and what A levels to get and everything like that. So I remember sitting down with, it was literally the whole family, me, my mum and my two brothers, sat down, and they were like, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to go to this like college / university. Then I want to go to drama school, and then I want to get in the West End, and that's going to happen. And she was like, right, I just want to let you know that we'll support you, but I can't help you as much as maybe a dance mum could or anything like that. So I was like, right, okay. And then it kind of just snowballed from there, really. When I was in school, I did like GCSE dance, GCSE drama. So I kind of got more of like a contemporary style underneath my belt dance-wise. I took singing lessons at school. I was very shy though. I never used to sing in front of anyone. If I was singing in the house and my mum came in, I'd stop singing and just sit on my bed and be like, and then she'd leave and I'd start thinking I would Beyonce again. And then it just kind of escalated. And then when I went to college, that's when I discovered like how much I love singing and how much all three of them kind of mold into each other. And then once I hit college, because my tutor was in Les Mis, once I hit college, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then I just got more competitive and then met more people, and then I was just a bit like, yeah, this is my job.
Right. Do you know, one of my favorite things about you, as well as you're like, I mean, I could honestly sit and talk to you for hours, but this would be the longest episode in the world. You have such discipline that even though, you know, you could turn around and go, well, you know what, I've been in one of the most popular shows at the moment. You know, actually probably the biggest show in the last couple of years to come out of London, definitely. I've done it on a ship, I've done a tour of it, and I did it on the West End. So now work is just going to come to me. You don't have that attitude.
No.
You still, you know, you have singing lessons, you go to classes like no one I know. You just keep going and going and going and going. Why do you do that? Why do you not think, oh, I've been on the West End stage, so now I will just naturally get other jobs?
Because now I've had a taste of what I want. I know that if I want to play Elphaba in Wicked or Eponine in Les Mis, I'm like, right, my next goal's this, my next goal's that. So yeah, I've done a West End show now, but I can't rest on my laurels. Like, just because that's on my CV doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to get me through a door. Whereas if I do a workshop with somebody I want to be cast in, then that's going to get me in a room. Same with dance. If I have more dance rounds than what I normally have, I need to be ready to be like, right, okay, let's go, show me a routine. My pickup skill. Like, you've also got to remember, when you do one show for so long, all I'm doing is that choreography, that specific style. I'm not doing ballet in the morning, I'm not doing jazz, I'm not kicking my leg up in the air, like, I'm not stretching, I'm not doing cardio, I'm not doing strengthening, I'm literally doing 6 every day for 6 months. And as much as the show is a marathon and it is hard work, don't get me wrong, but my body by the end of it was so used to it. My voice was so used to it, because muscle memory happens within 3 months of a contract. So my body's just used to dancing in that style, acting in that specific way as well, like acting for a commercial or a TV advert or a BBC drama or something like that, or even slides, for example, for a new musical. That's completely different to singing in my own accent, talking in my own accent. Like, even singing in my own accent's a different voice placement compared to what I'm normally used to. So I just think you can't stop learning, and by going to classes I'm meeting more people, and I think it's just because I know what I want next, and I'm like, in order to get that, or eventually get that further down the line, it might be years away for all I know. I might need like a year out of work just training, because the universe needs me to kind of experience class, experience different environments, get that thicker skin, build that thicker skin up. And I think also you've got to be confident but not arrogant. So I think that's a massive learning curve for me, because I never open a conversation with, oh, I've just been in a 6 musical. I only ever like release that information if someone asks me about it. Whereas sometimes I think people are like, or no, I should be confident and say that I've done this and I've done that. Like, so I think it's just all a learning curve whilst making sure that you keep going and you keep pushing. Because even when you're so successful, you're going to get a rejection. You're going to get 50
absolutely.
no's. You're going to get 50 no's before you get that yes. But I know when you get that yes, you forget about all the money you feel like you're spending all the time, but you're investing in it, but you sometimes don't see that you're investing in yourself. All the classes, all the, oh my God, I didn't get it. Why didn't I get it? Is it me? Is it my talent? Is it because I'm not tall enough? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? Like all those rejections and all that negative thought that you have because you're a human being, as soon as you get that yes and you get a job that you love, you won't think about that. You won't think about that for a year, 2 years when you're on the show.
And it would have been worth it, you know, because that's the reason you got to where you are. You wouldn't have got that yes had you not been putting all that work in.
Yeah.
Like, if you sit at home and don't spend your money on anything but Prosecco and going out with your friends, like you can't expect to get, you know, the job that you've been dreaming of because you're not working towards it. It is a dream, and that's the difference. It becomes a dream and is no longer a goal because you just, you know, save that Saturday night out and go and have a singing lesson, or don't, you know, take that extra job so that you can go and take class with that casting director that you can't get in the room for. Like that is the difference though, isn't it? And that's what I mean about being so disciplined. I mean, what advice
everyone needs a muggle. Everyone needs a muggle job as well. Like I say a muggle job, I mean a normal job, or however you want to call it.
Yeah,
like,
I call it a muggle job as well.
Like everyone needs that, and it's not something you need to be ashamed of, because when I'm behind a bar making a cocktail, I don't want to make £5 porn style martinis on a Saturday. But if you're going to give me a £50 tip or even a £10 tip, you're going to pay for my tube that weekend. Which gets me to a dance class, or you can pay, that's paid for a coffee with a friend when I need that kind of boost of, no, you've got this, it's just going to take time. So don't be afraid of the muggle job either, because I think quite a lot of people are, and quite a lot of people don't like having them.
No, and I think people can often be ashamed about it actually as well. I know when I often say to singers like, oh, you know, what are you doing at the moment? And they're like, oh, just auditioning. Like, I'm like, are you working? Like set up, you know, tell me about your life. Like, what are you doing to get yourself where you want to be? Like, say to me, I'm working at the coffee shop and I'm working in a pub and I've also got this part-time singing waitress job. Like, great, brilliant. You're driving yourself forward. You're earning money so that you can do what you want to do and get in the room and get the job you want to have. What's if you could give advice to either, you know, your younger self or to all performers, what's your like top piece of advice? What do you follow religiously?
Just trust in your own ability and trust that you're good enough to do what you can do, and also not think that this is like life or death. Like, if you get an audition through and it's a big one, for example, let's say I got an audition through for Wicked and I've got recalled, and this was the big final, whether I got the job or not like 2 years ago, Bryony would have been like, right, if you don't get this job, then it's the end of the world, like you're never going to work again, and you'd put so much pressure on yourself to be good. You're never going to be good under that pressure that you put on yourself. Whereas if you go in and you just say, you know what, I can get this, it might not be this time, it might take a couple of times, but I'm good enough to do this job, I am good enough to do this, then you're going to walk in, come back out and be like, right, next, moving on. And not be sat at your phone checking your emails every 10 minutes, every half an hour to see whether you've got feedback. Like the amount of pressure I used to put on myself to be the best or be amazing or whatever, when sometimes it's not even about whether you can sing the material, it's about whether you fit the jigsaw that they're trying to create for that particular show. And there's nothing you can do about that. I can't change my height, I can't change anything about myself other than going in, being me, and then coming back out again. And I think because I now say like, yes, I am good enough, yes, I'm an actress, I'm a singer, I can sing, I can dance, that having that confidence, and even if you don't say that to other people, you just say it to yourself before you go in the room, that is just going to help you fly whatever room you go into. So yeah, I'd just say self-worth and just be yourself.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I am such a strong supporter of that. Like, you can spend all your time trying to be somebody else, that you then miss the opportunity that is perfect for you, that you would have been just perfect for, because you're too busy trying to do what somebody else can do or be who somebody else is. Like, be you, be true to yourself, because there is a job, there are roles out there for you. If you could step into any show tomorrow, what would it be? What role? Where?
Oh my goodness. It's got to be Eponine and Les Mis for me.
Love that.
Something very different. Yeah, West End. But then I'd also like to do an international tour of something. But right now, if I could choose, it'd be Eponine and Les Mis. I don't know why. I'm very much that way at the minute. You know, when you just pick a show and you're like, yeah, that's my next.
Fixate on it. No, I love that. And it's such a long running, popular, wonderful show. And my favourite thing actually about Les Mis is that it seems to move with the times. It's not stuck like 30 odd years ago when it was created. It's developed and it's grown and it's adapted and changed. And I love that. I really love that about it, which I think obviously the creative and casting team do a wonderful job on it. Great. Before we finish, because otherwise we will be sat here chatting for the day, I always ask this question. If you could have dinner with anyone, alive or past, who would you have dinner with?
Whoopi Goldberg or Aretha Franklin.
Really great choices. Do you want to explain why?
Whoopi Goldberg, because she's iconic and she would give the best advice to anyone, and I'd just be like a sponge. I'd be eating like spaghetti bolognese, just being like staring at her, not blinking, just absorbing all the information. Aretha Franklin, because I'd be really cheeky and ask if she could sing for me, like just sing, and I'd just be there like, wow. And again, like, I'd just pick her brain, like, why did you start? Was it ever hard for you? Did you ever think about quitting? Because I'm always interested to know whether when people are at the peak of their career, whether they still get anxiety, whether they still feel like they're not good enough, whether they still feel like they've got imposter syndrome and it's just going to be taken away from them straight away. Because us as humans all do it daily, especially with the industry that we're all in. And I think if you could speak to someone else and then say what you're thinking, it kind of validates it for some weird reason, and you feel like less of a strange weirdo for thinking those thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet she had doubts at some point, you know.
But definitely them too.
Awesome, really great choices. Well, thank you so much for jumping on and joining me, Bryony. It's been lovely to chat to you, and I really hope that if you're watching this or listening to this, that you found it really helpful, that you've gained some insights into performer life, what it's like to work on ships, what it's like to tour, what it's like to be on the West End, maybe learn some insider facts about Six, or just about Bryony and how she keeps going, how motivated, how determined, and how inspiring she is as a performer, and just what a wonderful human being she is to be around. Be more Bryony. We'll start a little thing. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this episode, then make sure you like it. If there's somebody that you know that you think they need this little boost, then send it over to them, share it with your friends, share it with family, share it with colleagues, and subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos and things. If you did enjoy it, leave us a little comment below as well to say hi, because we would love to hear from you. And I'll see you very soon. I'll see you at the next episode. Bye.